All right, we've got a special one today. I am very excited to welcome Mike Jarmuz. You may know him on Twitter, X now, I guess. He is the founder of Lightning Ventures, the CEO of Thunder Funder, angel investor extraordinaire. Mike, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the channel.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. We were hanging out doing all these other kind of fun things with Thunder Funder, and then you were like, "Oh, by the way, I have a YouTube channel." I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome."
Had to get you on. It was only a matter of time. But for those that may not be familiar, help us maybe understand your background a little bit. You have a pretty interesting story and all these companies you've invested in. How'd you get into both Bitcoin and angel investing more generally?
Well, I'm a lunatic. It's simple as that.
Clearly.
Um, So yeah, short version, I'm from the desert out in Phoenix and was in the music business for 10 plus years, was a concert promoter, managed a band on a Elektra and Warner Records and traveled around in a tour bus. If you ever seen the movie Almost Famous, something like that, lived that for a pretty good while actually and done a bunch of crazy things. I lived on a Mississippi plantation farm called the Shack Up Inn. Had a number of small businesses. I had a bar in Manhattan. We had a little cafe as well. We had a Bitcoin ATM back there long ago at the bar in Manhattan around the time that I started discovering it. And then, of course, it takes over your life. Worked for a healthcare company. I owned a little store in Arizona. I lived above a famous punk rock venue called the Nile Theater. Done a lot of different things. And then I discovered angel investing after Bitcoin. So started investing psychotically and learning as much as I could with small checks and my own sort of education and things that I could put together. Probably very similar to a lot of the things that you've put together as a founder when you're kind of forced to discover a lot of these things, when putting together your pitch deck and metrics and all of these really boring things. So, just started learning as much as I could and investing there. And then some friends encouraged me to basically start my own little shop, which was just devoted to investing in Bitcoin startups. So the word syndicate, if you hear it floated around, there's a lot of different syndicates. There's real estate investing syndicates and people who invest in video games and all sorts of things. But a syndicate is really just a network or a group of investors who kind of get together. Maybe some of them collectively bring in deals to the fold that they kind of all evaluate. And then they pool their capital, their resources, their talent, their everything, and they make an investment in that company. And then they kind of, do their best to support it or not. Maybe sometimes they don't, and they just kind of set it and forget it. So that was kind of the idea for Lightning Ventures because I was already active in a bunch of other syndicates, right? And if you want to learn more about the Lightning Venture Syndicate, you can fill out the investor form on ltng.ventures and we will get you started. And the minimum for a lot of these groups is even only $1,000, right? So if you're learning about angel investing, you don't want to, everyone hears angel investing, start thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be, big checks and it's hard to get into, but you can get started with very little and read updates from founders, see how you can be helpful, just kind of increase your deal flow. And then, the number go up, the NGU, your numbers can always go up as far as your check size down the line. So I focused a lot on building out the Lightning Ventures network and raised a small fund that was kind of a friends and family fund just to get started and was simultaneously syndicating extra allocations in those deals where people could invest. So my number one and still big goal is to get as many awesome people in our group as possible. So it's not just about, whether you're investing or not. If you're doing something awesome with Joltz and maybe you see something come through Lightning Ventures and you say, you know what, Muzz, that's a great founder. Like, I think we can do something with them. Maybe it's cross marketing or a promotion or whatever. And then it facilitates some really good partnerships. Some people join and they end up becoming advisors for companies that come through. So you never know what can happen when you just get a bunch of awesome people together in the group. So that was kind of that, but you have to be accredited. So that's a whole nother thing. But to invest kind of for anyone who's not accredited, what can they do? So that's called regulation crowdfunding. And that word crowdfunding kind of gets jumbled up with Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Geyser and all these other things. But this is a very specific type of fundraising. It's called equity fundraising, where you're actually getting equity and ownership percentage in these early stage, one doesn't have to always be early stage, but in these private companies. And up until about 2013, nobody could actually do that. You couldn't actually just be somebody who wants to invest $1,000 in Google, in their Series A, or even $25,000 in Google's seed or Airbnb or all these kind of cool things. The government, because they love you, they keep you out of that sort of thing. Okay. You can go to the racetrack and you can bet it all on number 4 to win. And you can lose everything there with 0 checks, period. And their business actually kind of relies on you losing, sadly, but you couldn't do this. So it's kind of a new thing. So that's when we said, okay, let's try to start something that complements Lightning Ventures. And that's where anyone can invest. And that is Thunder Funder, which we just announced in July in Nashville. And that is the newest thing that I'm working on. And for anyone who doesn't know, Joltz actually won the pitch contest in Nashville there. And as part of our deal, we said, hey, let's try this. You are the guinea pig on Thunder Funder. And we've been having a good time working together. And that's where we're at now. That deal is actually still live on Thunder Funder right now. And we don't have the Bitcoin integration done yet. Everything's a little bit harder than you think, and now here I am in the operator role, right? You go from venture capital to then you're the CEO and you're thinking about burn and everything else. So I'm paying off a lot of karma maybe for how I treated some of those founders before. But yeah, so Joltz is live on there. You can't pay in Bitcoin yet. Okay, we're almost there, but you can get rid of your dirty fiat and turn it into awesome equity in Joltz if you'd like. And we just went live today with the Orange Pill app as well. So if you love what Mateo is doing and that kind of fun stuff. So that's really what we're working on.
The most interesting man in Bitcoin. And I will say, having now personally kind of, been through this process, I think it really is like a powerful community. I think about the fundraising landscape more broadly that Bitcoin companies face and that founders face. And right, like if you can go and, you know, crank revenue, grow revenue immediately, like by all means, that's fantastic. A lot of the tech-based Bitcoin startups that we're building simply don't lend themselves to that right out of the gate. And so like fundraising is a component, like it or not. And I think just having these different levers as a founder is immensely helpful, right? So you have, the Lightning Venture Syndicate, these are accredited investors, as you said, but then having also Thunder Funder, where literally anyone, like I see, my little notifications coming in over email, hey, you have a document to sign in Thunder Funder. These are like $100 checks, $500 checks. So anyone can invest now, which I think is huge. What is your take? I mean, obviously you did these different things for a reason. Like, what is your take around the fundraising landscape? And then maybe we can get a little bit more into Joltz, because I don't want to self-shill too hard, but it is exciting, obviously, for me, and I think for you guys as well. But like, what's your take around the fundraising landscape more broadly right now that kind of Bitcoin founders face? And like, do you have advice for would-be founders or even current founders as they're thinking about this?
This video is made possible by Bitcoin trading cards, and I am pumped to have them as the first sponsor on my channel. I met Aladdin and the team back at Pacific Bitcoin 2022, and I'm not gonna lie, at the time I thought, okay, cool, a quirky little Bitcoin project, but little could I have imagined at the time how this project would capture imaginations. I've personally used these to orange pill people that I care about in my life. The art is stunning and features Bitcoin artists all around the world. You get high quality Bitcoin education on topics like economics and freedom as part of that, which makes this, as you can imagine, a really special project for me. And I'm not gonna lie, it makes you want to collect these. The community behind this is also truly insane. And I think they have a real shot at bringing Bitcoin to the mainstream. So if you're curious to check them out, head over to btc-tc.com where you can find the different series they've launched. And hey, if you do end up snagging some cards, you'll also get some Bitcoin rewards back on your purchase, powered by Joltz. Here's to ripping packs and stacking sats.
Well, maybe that's another interview for another time because you've been through fundraising yourself already. And I'd love to interview you on, what it's like dealing with VCs and maybe they tell you one thing and do another and then they go, all kinds of stories without naming names. But, the more roads there are
Yeah.
for people to get onto, I like to make a joke. I think it was in our pitch deck about, we're a routing node for venture capital in the Bitcoin
Yeah.
space. We're opening channels with founders and we're routing payments, whether those are payments from us, from a fund, or from people that are in our network, or the Thunder Funder crew, or anyone else that's out there. It's ways to support as an investment. That's very important. And not everything is meant for venture capital investment, right? Not everything is good for it. Personally, no movies. I don't invest in movies. There's a lot of movies. People come inbound all the time, and this is a documentary and it's doing all these things. That's not like a venture investment. That's just not like what I do. I don't know anything about that. But like you have things like Geyser, and you have like other people who invest in movies. So it's really about plugging in to the right groups and to be able to raise from your fans, right? So like Substack did a big fundraise and they raised from everyone who loves Substack, right? Because they're a big brand, and or Zenefits did one. And these kind of bigger names, once you get to a point, is pretty powerful because you can take a lot of your users, your super fans, and now they really love you. Like they loved you before, but now they like invested $500 into whatever that company is. And you can always communicate with them, and maybe you want help amplifying something or whatever's going on like in your business. It's not like they're gone. And this is kind of new. I hope that the accredited investor law actually changes. Supposedly there's these rumors that there are people on the inside about maybe implementing a test. So instead of meeting some sort of income threshold or net worth, or clicking the right button, because it is a self-certification process, right? The SEC does that by design.
Mm.
So yeah, we want to know, but we don't want to know too much. Okay. So just click the right button. And if they get rid of that, then maybe you have to sit through a 30-minute class. Maybe you have to pass a small exam. And then it, really opens the floodgates for how people can really make a tremendous amount of potentially life-changing money, returns that you're not going to get anywhere else. And I'm not talking about a meme coin or, a Wall Street bet stock or something like that. These are real investments, that have the potential to outpace everything else, right? And we're all Bitcoiners, so we're measuring everything against Bitcoin. That's a whole nother thing. But the market, to answer your question, is really slow and maybe just starting to kind of show signs of life. And angel investing, investing in general, venture investing, LPs that invest in funds, everyone is still kind of licking their wounds from this last, we're talking Silicon Valley Bank, and we're talking Signature Bank, and BlockFi, and the blowups in the crypto lending, everything space, interest rates getting paid 5.5% not to invest. Probably not a bad idea, maybe the past however long, and there's just a lot of that, and it's a lagging sort of deal. I think that we're in really good shape once it does turn. But the really hot markets where, hey, did you hear about the Joltz deal? And then we do a call and our team is on there and we're like, man, we love this. Like, let's do it. And everything is great. And then maybe 2 weeks goes by and we've cleared our deck and we're like, all right, let's circle back to Joltz. Let's do this. And we come back to you and you're like, Muzz, where you been? It's full. We don't have room for you. Okay. This is done. We'll see you at the next round. That hasn't happened in a long time. And I don't like those markets either, to be honest with you. I don't like the over competitive. And by the time we get back to it, it's full and everyone's fighting for deals and none of the safe notes have a discount and everything. You start seeing uncapped notes. Okay. For anyone who knows what that is, that's another thing I will never invest in. As just a personal rule. But you start seeing a lot of the hot market stuff. And then it goes from that to dead, to where nobody wants to invest. Everyone's scared. Everyone wants to buy a Bitcoin only. Why did I invest in these companies? Because you don't see it every day. If we have a portfolio company that's maybe 5x from where we first invested, and maybe Bitcoin has doubled. okay, or 2.5x. It's really hard to like look at that and feel good all the time. You need a good market to support it. But in reality, a lot of these companies, and probably yourself included, has really the best news ever, right? The best stuff on deck. It couldn't be better. And, you're in founder mode and product market fit and you've pivoted and you're doing what you're doing and like it looks great, right? So it's like if you're not dead now, you're in pretty good shape. But look, the market's been pretty darn slow, and I'm really hoping that it turns. I think it's going to turn quickly, but it's still very tough out there, as I'm sure you can attest.
You can definitely attest. I mean, obviously holidays are always going to be kind of a seasonal piece, but yeah, I think back to like the 2021 when you just had deals flying out the door, like pre-revenue, pre-product teams just raising, millions of dollars. And then fast forward to today, and there's great post-product, post-revenue companies, and Joltz falls in that category that but I think to your point, it's like a much more I think it ultimately is beneficial over the longer term. Like, yes, great to get, these huge checks right away. But then guess what? Like down the road in a more reasonable market environment, you're gonna have a hard time raising at a valuation that's gonna give, those investors an attractive return. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows when that's happening. But yes, as a founder, like I will say, that's why I'm such a fan of what you guys are doing. I think we need more options, more kind of investor categories coming into the Bitcoin space. We saw a little bit of sort of maybe traditionally more crypto Web3 investors kind of starting to take more of a look at Bitcoin as we had things like ordinals or runes or this kind of like Bitcoin season 2 meme, whatever you want to make of that. And to some of those things, we could look at them and say, oh, well, these are mostly kind of speculative use cases, whatever. People are spending money on them. At Joltz, we think something like stablecoins is another one of those chapters that's going to be heating up here in a big way very soon. So I think that's going to be, at least for us on a more company level, a pretty big unlock here very soon. But it's not easy. And it never is, right? It never is easy as a founder. So like for those listening who maybe you have a project, maybe you've tried to do some fundraising, like it just is hard. And so I think that's why some of these avenues like Thunder Funder can be so impactful in kind of getting that early foothold from a fundraising standpoint.
Are you a first-time founder?
I am. And I will say that that is also like if you're not a first-time founder, man, that's like the biggest cheat code. So you should almost just like be a founder, and so you can say I'm not a first time founder anymore. We my one of my co-founders, Steven, who and we did a little bit a couple years ago, but yeah, I would say this is my first like proper, foray. Yeah.
So, a couple of first-time founders or some people in our portfolio, they only know what it's like to raise in the good market. Okay. Ben Price, and Ben, if you're listening, you owe me a phone call. He had his joke. He's like, I only know what it's like to raise when
Yeah.
it's just easy and it's just easy and great or whatever. And
Yeah.
you had raised around before too. You had raised previously. So what was that like fundraising like in comparison to now? Because now you at least have something to benchmark it against.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. We did a small pre-seed round in 2023, really, sort of
That was still
conclude.
challenging.
That was still very challenging. I mean, we hacked that together. We there certainly had some luck along the way.
You only know what it's like to invest when it's terrible.
Exactly, exactly.
So when
We've been Joltz has been forged in fire, I can tell you that. And so we're doing I guess we'll call it our seed, currently. Fingers crossed for Series A in a more kind of easier environment. We'll be definitely ready for it because yeah, it's tough. We've only raised in these kind of down markets. And you're right, it is interesting the degree to which this type of activity, one, tends to lag in general to the overall sort of Bitcoin price and market. But then two, the degree to which I think people are still recovering from that hangover post, 2021. I mean, it really did do some seismic kind of damage to confidence and, all of those things. But we're still here. We're fighting. So
Well, it's like swinging a donut on the baseball bat, because as soon as we get into a good market, you're just going to be like, wow, compared to what you went through previously.
100%, 100%. But no, we're cranking along, and it's been a great journey. So yeah, for any founders listening out there, get in touch with Mike if you're curious, to learn more about the Thunder Funder process. I would say we were guinea pigs, as you rightly said, but I think we were happy guinea pigs. So you guys made it pretty easy. All the kind of like regulatory stuff that goes into this, you sort of abstract away. So that's a pretty big deal. But I guess, Mike, if for folks listening, where can they kind of follow along in the work that you're doing? Where can they check out the Joltz deal, all that good stuff?
Sure. So the Joltz deal, first and foremost, is on thunderfunder.com. Thunder Funder. We're trying to put the fun in funding, except FINRA, we've nicknamed No Funra. They make it challenging.
Sounds
But
about right.
yeah, so that's Thunder Funder. That's Joltz was our first deal. Still live there. You can create an account. Anyone can from anywhere. You don't have to be in the US. And we're trying to build out more community, right? Now you can send a message to someone on the site and maybe we can have more, right? More sort of badges, get your superpowers on there. Maybe you're somebody who has a podcast and you can put some links in there to a profile. Maybe there's a lot of symmetry, some co-founder matching. I mean, but it's a lot of work. And here you are in the operator's seat, and there's a million things to do. But, get on there, give us feedback, please. Like if something breaks, CSS errors, whatever, we're still in that zone. And I would love it just to let us know what we can do to improve it and make it better. But that's Thunder Funder. And if you go to ltng.ventures, which we're working on a whole new website and some other stuff in the top secret lab, if you fill out that investor contact there, we can get you more so in our fold with a bunch of other stuff too. And those are pretty much the two main ways. It's Mike Jarmuz on Twitter, Jarmuz. And yeah, definitely check out Joltz because it is live on Thunder Funder.
Absolutely. Mike, it was a pleasure. We'll have to do this again soon. Always great to kind of get your perspective on the lay of the land. And it's been fun jamming with you, man, and trying to open this new avenue for awesome Bitcoin startups to fulfill their potential, really, which is kind of what this is all about. So it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to do it again. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you too, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.